Cheer off, at least you caught the bad guy.
Hello and welcome back to the Crime Reel. Today we are looking at a recent case from the UK. The nature of this crime is so callous and the perpetrator so blasé about their actions that it is almost beyond belief that they could be so heartlessly cruel. Great Baddow is a village in Chelmsford in Essex with a population of around 15,000. It is one of the largest villages in England. At the heart of the village are over 30 listed buildings and it is generally seen as a nice place to live. However, the peace of this community was shattered on the morning of the 15th of September 2023 when the police made a horrific discovery. Our story today starts 4 years earlier in the summer of 2019. The McCullough family lived on Pump Hill near the centre of the village. 70-year-old John had recently retired from his job as a business studies lecturer at Anglia Ruskin University. He was settling into retirement life, enjoying playing golf and reading. He had a few health issues, but nothing drastically out of the ordinary for a man of his age. High blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, for which he was receiving treatment from his local GP. His wife, Lois, was 71 and also retired. She had agoraphobia and certain traits of obsessive-compulsive disorder, but nevertheless lived an active life with a wide network of friends and pen pals. The couple had 5 adult children, with all but one of them having moved out of the family home. Their youngest daughter, Virginia, who had not long turned 30, still lived with her parents and would help take care of them, and also their finances. Virginia did not have many friends and had never been in regular employment. Whilst living with her parents, she told them that she was working as a web designer, but this was simply not true. She had no source of income, but nevertheless spent all day online gambling and shopping under the guise of working from home. In order to fund these habits, she began stealing her parents' money. Small amounts at first, but soon these amounts increased and her parents became suspicious. When they started to ask questions, she lied to them, saying that they had been a victim of fraud and she was dealing with all of the problems on their behalf. She even went so far as creating fake documents to back up her lies. By the summer of 2019, she had accumulated around £60,000 worth of gambling debts and was running out of lies and excuses to tell her parents. So she came up with a new plan to solve her problems. She would get rid of her parents and take the remainder of their money. Her parents were not by any stretch of the imagination wealthy, but they had a comfortable home and received a monthly income from various pensions and benefits. Over a period of months, Virginia stockpiled prescription medications, including powerful sedatives. She bought implements to crush the tablets into a fine powder so that she could add it to her parents' drinks without them knowing. She treated her parents like guinea pigs, practicing differing doses so that she could work out how much she would need to poison them in order to administer a fatal dose. Over a sustained period of time, everything was meticulously planned, demonstrating her determination to go through with the killings. Once she had completed her trials, she was ready to commit murder. On the 17th of June 2019, she took her parents various drinks throughout the evening, which were laced with a lethal combination of drugs. That evening, her father didn't finish all of his drinks and her mother barely touched hers. Virginia had no idea whether or not they had consumed a lethal amount, so she simply packed up for the night and went to bed, not knowing what the following day would hold. Early the next morning, she got up and went into her father's bedroom. He was lying motionless on the bed. Her plan had worked. Her father was dead. Virginia then went upstairs into her mother's room. Lois was sitting up in bed, listening to the radio with her headphones on. She was alive and well, having not consumed enough of the drink for the poison to have anything more than a sedating effect. Virginia knew that if her mother lived, she would know that her husband was dead. To Virginia, there was no other option. Her mother needed to die. Virginia knew what she was going to do next. She went to get her gloves and a hammer. Armed with the hammer, she hesitated multiple times before going into her mother's room and violently attacking her. She would later describe the incident in great detail. So, I had Wilko's garden gloves, I had a kitchen knife, and I had a hammer. I went into my mother's only wearing the gloves. I had the hammer and the knife was still in my room. I knew I was going to be arrested for the murder of my father and I was going to go to prison. I looked at her and she looked so innocent. She was just listening to the radio. She was not doing anything. I went in with the hammer probably about 4 times, going on to describe the hammer blows as someone badly playing the xylophone. It was willy-nilly. Virginia added that she realised the hammer was not going to work. I didn't want her to suffer. I wanted her to be like my father, but my mother didn't drink. I left the room. I took off one of the garden gloves. I got the knife, which was from Lakeland. Lakeland is a shop that supplies lots of kitchen accessories. It was a large kitchen knife. I didn't have much time. She was still awake. She didn't say anything other than, "What are you doing?" Realising that her daughter was trying to kill her, Lois suffered extensive defence wounds to her hands as she tried in vain to protect herself from Virginia's violent attack. As well as the hammer blows, Lois was stabbed 8 times, 7 of which were to her chest. Following the attack, Virginia claimed that she took her mother's hand. She stopped moving, and then that's just when she passed. I kissed her hand. That's when I came to the realisation I had killed them both. Then I just went for a wander around the house for a little bit. However, killing both her parents was just the beginning of Virginia's crimes. She now had to figure out what to do next. Her first concern was for herself. During the attack on Lois, Virginia had sustained a deep cut to her hand, so she made an appointment with her doctor to get it treated, claiming that she had cut her hand whilst chopping vegetables. After this, she used her father's credit card to go shopping in Chelmsford town centre. She purchased some plastic gloves and 2 sleeping bags. Returning to the family home, those sleeping bags became body bags for her parents. A dead body becomes extremely hard to manoeuvre, but Virginia managed it. If John and Lois's body were left where they were, within 24 hours, decomposition would begin, at which point they would begin to leak fluids and release a strong smell, attracting both flies and the unwanted attention of the neighbours. By wrapping the bodies in sleeping bags, this would absorb much of the decomposition fluids. Then, by wrapping them in plastic, this would keep oxygen out and the fluids in. Usually, a murderer would want to create distance between themselves and their crime by disposing of the bodies. However, Virginia wanted to control the situation and ensure that the bodies were not found. She decided that the best way to do this was to keep her parents' bodies at home with her. Her mother's body was pushed into a bedroom wardrobe, which was then sealed shut. Virginia then went on another shopping spree. This time she ordered breeze blocks, cement, sharp sand and Gorilla Tape from B&Q. She used these items to build a makeshift tomb for her father in his room. She put his body inside, covered it with at least 11 layers of plastic and disguised it with multiple blankets to make it look like a bed. Virginia got on with her life, living in the parents' house with their decomposing bodies. She went on various spending sprees, buying clothes and jewellery. She applied for credit cards and bank accounts in her parents' names, continued to receive their state pension and other benefits, and withdrew money from her father's private pension. All of these transactions were completed online, making it easier for Virginia to get away with it. However, her plan would only continue to work if other people believed that John and Lois were still alive. Amazingly, she managed to convince everyone that she came into contact with, even her 4 siblings, that her parents were either away on an extended holiday, had moved away, or were feeling unwell. She would text from her mother's phone pretending to be Lois. She put off family and friends' visits, sent printed cards for birthdays and special occasions, cancelled any appointments, and even spoke to her sibling on the phone pretending to be her mother. And then in March 2020, she was presented with a unique advantage. The COVID-19 pandemic and subsequent lockdowns gave Virginia the perfect cover for hiding her parents' murder for longer. When lockdown lifted, her lies continued and her behaviour became increasingly bizarre. She made over 200 calls to the police, pretending to be her mother, complaining of trivial things. Then in August 2023, Virginia called the police to report that she had been assaulted, which resulted in the police having to visit her home. Nothing came of this allegation, and it is unclear why she actually did this. It simply made no sense to draw unwanted police attention to herself. Was she bored? Did she enjoy the excitement or thrill of this extra layer of deception? 4 years and 3 months after she had murdered her parents, it would fall to the family's GP to finally raise suspicion. Having not seen either John or Lois for all these years, and then finding that John's prescriptions were no longer being collected, the doctor informed a safeguarding unit, who then informed the police. The police visited Virginia on the 13th of September and was told the usual excuse that her parents were away travelling. However, the police saw through her lies and she was investigated further. Whatever was uncovered was enough to get a warrant for her arrest. On the morning of the 15th of September 2023, the police arrived back at the house and forced entry. They clearly knew, or strongly suspected, that something was seriously amiss, as they were already wearing forensic suits as the door was smashed in. Virginia was arrested on suspicion of the murder of John and Lois McCullough. The video camera footage of the arrest is nothing short of bizarre. Virginia was calm, composed and emotionless as she was handcuffed, offering to be fully cooperative with the officers. Here is the video.
That's right. The police! Stay where you are! Stay where you are, show your hands.
Yep.
The time is 12:12. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder.
I need to tell you something about what's upstairs on the top floor as well.
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
My dad's body's in there.
Right, okay.
Yep, okay. Obviously I'll
Where about
say,
your mum?
a little bit more complicated.
Where will we find your mum?
Well, possible.
Where will we find your mum?
Okay, so upstairs there are about 5 wardrobes.
Yep.
It's behind the bed, but back next to the sink. He didn't drink all of them. He only drank probably about half of 2. But yeah, when I went in the morning, this was before my mother, came in and he was gone. I did know that this would kind of come eventually. It's proper that I serve my punishment. Cheer up, at least you caught the bad guy. I mean, I deserve to obviously get whatever's coming sentence-wise, because that's the right thing to do. And that might give me a bit of peace.
The next bit is very hard to talk about. That's probably the most grisly detail. There's a hammer. It's in the middle underneath the stairs. It will still have blood on it. It's rusted, but it will still have blood traces on it.
She gave a full and frank admission of everything that she had done and signed a thorough, detailed confession. At the police station, she continued talking, going on to confess the financial crimes and also providing the location of the murder weapon. Following her arrest, Virginia alleged that her parents were abusive, claiming that they were not the easiest to live with, not always kind, and they were smacked as children. These claims were completely rejected by her siblings, who described them as lies and a disgusting misrepresentation of our family. It was calculated that over the 4-year period, she had stolen over £150,000, All of that money had been spent. Approximately 21,000 of this was spent on gambling, with the remainder going on everyday life. There was no huge payday for her crimes. She just continued to live a normal life in the most abnormal of circumstances. Virginia was charged with 2 counts of murder and appeared before magistrates on 18th of September 2023. At the court, she was then remanded in custody. The following day, she appeared at Basildon Crown Court via video link from Peterborough Prison, where Judge Samantha Lee set a plea hearing for the 1st of December. After various hearings and court proceedings, Virginia eventually pleaded guilty to both counts of murder on the 4th of July 2024. A sentencing hearing was set for the 11th of October, where a packed courtroom heard the details of her crime and how money had been her primary motivation. Details of her psychological state were provided, but the judge concluded that there was no impairment of her ability to understand what she was doing. Statements were also read on behalf of her siblings, who had been granted anonymity by the judge. Child 1 said they had been left devastated and bereft at the deaths of their parents. To me, this situation is quite literally a living nightmare from which I will never wake up. Child 2 said that they felt sick to my core every day. So many lies have been told to cover the horrific truth that she had murdered our loving mum and dad. Richard Butcher, Lois's brother, said in an impact statement that his niece was very dangerous, adding, "I keep thinking why. I feel I've been manipulated over the years to think my sister was alive, and that he couldn't comprehend what has happened." Virginia was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 36 years before she will even be considered for release. As the sentence was handed down, she looked at the judge, nodded, and then was led away to start her punishment. Afterwards, Detective Superintendent Rob Kirby said she is an intelligent manipulator who chose to kill her parents callously without a thought for them or those who continue to suffer as a result of their loss. This process, from the finding of John and Lois's remains to the unravelling of McCullough's web of lies, has taken a huge toll on the wider family network. Here is a video released by Essex Police after her sentencing.
Good afternoon. Virginia McCullough murdered her parents in cold blood. Her actions were considered meticulous and carried out in such a way as to conceal what she had done for as long as possible. These were the actions of someone who had taken time to plan and carry out the murder of her parents in the interests of self-preservation and personal gain, before living within metres of the bodies of her 2 victims for a number of years. Throughout the course of our investigation, we have built a picture of the vast levels of deceit, betrayal and fraud that she was engaged in. It was on a shocking and monumental scale. McCullough lied about almost every aspect of her life, maintaining a charade to deceive everyone close to her and clearly taking advantage of her parents' goodwill. She is an intelligent manipulator who chose to kill her parents callously without a thought for them or those who continue to suffer as a result of their loss. The details of this case shock and horrify even the most experienced of murder detectives, let alone members of the public. It therefore follows that the wider family of John and Lois understandably could never have guessed or anticipated that McCullough would be capable of undertaking these murders before committing herself to this level of deceit. They have been left utterly devastated by the circumstances of this case, and they continue to feel the loss of John and Lois each and every day. This process, from the finding of John and Lois's remains to the unravelling of McCullough's web of lies, has taken a huge toll on the wider family network. With this sentence, and with all that we have uncovered throughout our investigation, we hope they can now start to find a way forward with their lives.
A joint statement was issued by the parents' family saying, "Our family has been left devastated and heartbroken at the deaths of our parents who were taken from us so cruelly. As we try to move forward with our lives, we will remember the happy times that we enjoyed with them. Our mum and dad are forever in our hearts and are loved and missed beyond any measure." Please subscribe if you're new to the channel and add any comments down below. Okay, and now moving on to petty crime. Long-term subscriber Phineas117 sent in some pictures of their cats. Some of the photos are from 2020 and some are from 2024. The first one is Old Man Tiffin. He's a blue Siamese. The sad news about Old Man Tiffin is that he passed away in August at 17 years old, and it's going to be a tough year for them. The second picture is Bunky. He's a Balinese, also known as the Bunkinator, and another one that also likes treats and snuggles and has a weird thing where he hates closed doors. And finally, the little kitten called Jinx. And the little kitten is 5 months old, but now would be 4 years, 5 months. A Lynx Point Blue Siamese. I don't know where Phineas117 is from, but I'm sure they will comment and let us know in due course. I've recently been asked if I have a Christmas wish list, which I don't, but I do have a link for Buy Me a Coffee, and there is also Super Thanks. Out of the two, the Buy Me a Coffee has a lot less commission and pays me normally within a week or so. A massive thank you to everyone that has supported me this year. Thanks very much for listening to the Crime Reel. Stay safe. Goodbye. Psst. I was surprised at the village sizes. So I looked it up and it's a very disputed category. I went on population size. So I have chosen Lancing in West Sussex as the biggest village in England. Please express your opinions though. Personally, I grew up in a village of about 1,000 people, and before you ask, yes, I was the village idiot. Goodbye.